Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tommy Danielsen here again for the third time. Back again here from smoky Northern California and living in the middle of all of these fires here, which is, equally fun for me as it is for pretty much everybody else, I'm sure. And part of life these days feels like we've got all sorts of fun stuff to deal with, and that's one of them. Lots of news in the miles and points world this week, or since the last week, and very happy that we've had over 300 people that have watched this ridiculous thing that we put together just for fun. And to make it even more fun and ridiculous, we've got some new people today. Jamie's out. He's doing a fundraiser. He's big on this Rotary, helping kids with something or something like that. But we're still going to be chatting a little bit about credit cards because it's a big part of our world, and who's better to bring on board to talk about that than one of my absolute favorite people in the industry, one of my really dear friends that we've known each other for a decade, from being moderators together on Flyer Talk, and bringing in Ed Pizza now, live from the South. Is Virginia part of the South?
Some people call it the Mid-Atlantic, but sure, yeah, it's not New York. So everything south of New York to me is the South.
There you go. Good to see you as always, Ed. This is really cool that you're coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah. So this is like I told the guys in advance, just before you got on. This is more of it's an FTU thing that we wanted to do to try and have some conversations during the COVID, and we have our little Facebook group, and which we're supposed to be putting this together for our in-person event and to get more networking between people. And obviously there seemed to be some stuff going on right now that makes that a little difficult. But we talked a little bit, yeah, exactly, all about that. But we chatted a couple of weeks ago, and so a little bit about credit cards, and we talked about the changes to the Platinum card, and I thought maybe, and then last week we talked a little bit about the changes to the Sapphire series and the new lounges coming up and all that kind of stuff, and we were thinking about, or Jamie and I, Jamie bailed last minute on this, but at the end of the day. We'll keep the floor open to the knowledge that you have, and we had a little conversation, you and I, earlier today. So how do we have these cards? We have the American Express Platinum, and then we have the Sapphires. They kind of give us guys, and like you said, the guys who are out there normally on the road a lot, it has tremendous value for us, but yeah, maybe not so much for everybody else.
Well, I think it really depends. And I think the move on the Amex Platinum card to a $695 annual fee, really does put pressure on the everyday folks to make sure that they're getting all the benefits out of that $695. Because if we compare it to, say, something like Chase Sapphire, which is $600 less a year, obviously a lot easier to get value out of it, especially, as you said, when we're all sitting at home. I've always been a big proponent of you should be going through your wallet a couple times a year and making sure that the cards that are in your wallet are paying for themselves. So nothing wrong with holding an Amex Platinum if you book a lot of flights. Mm-hmm. But I'd argue if you're not paying for a lot of flights, you're probably not getting the value out of that card, because there really isn't a whole lot else for bonus categories. You got prepaid hotels through their portal. But obviously for us loyalty junkies, you're losing out on your elite status, and in some cases losing out on points by booking through their portal.
Right.
And after that, it gets pretty thin. So as you mentioned, some other cards out on the market that, that might be things for people to consider, whether that's an Amex Gold or even a Costco credit card, things that have lower annual fees. So it's easier to cover that expense, especially when we're not really sure when we're going to be traveling again, and still earn, in some cases, really good returns. Amex Gold, 4 points on dining, 4 points on groceries, mm-hmm. still 3 points on airlines. It gives you a good cross section of things that you can earn.
Right. Well, I think we concluded, Jamie and I are both. So the way we've done it in our household, and is that for the Amex Platinum, it kind of, there are things that I am holding out buying and that I'm now buying because kind of it's free. So it's, even if it really is, a battle of wits with myself here, right? About if it's, in reality, I don't want to admit it, but I do have what is it called, Peacock TV without advertising, that costs $12 a month, and I also have. I haven't had Clear because my home airport, Necromenos, like you like to call it, it really, there isn't any value there. They literally just got Clear, but I've never waited more than, ever at this airport.
Yeah, I've been through that airport. You're right. It's super easy.
So, and most of the airports that I usually, there hasn't been a value. I mean, it was like Jamie and I were in Minneapolis a couple months ago, and he was like, "Whoa, you're going to be waiting. I have to wait for you." And all. It's like, and yeah, it was like a good 61 minutes for me to pay $100, 120 or whatever it is, the discounted price that I would get as a Delta Elite, I think I used United. So I mean, that to me feels like the $300, the credit that you get, the $200 and all that, all the new stuff. It really is. It's okay, and it's passable. I have to wait to pass judgment until you get home. And when it comes to the Sapphire, we're doing DoorDash. I mean, the DoorDash savings are enormous where we live. All the fees that are, so that pays for itself, and combined with that, it's like we found that we haven't used the Uber credit on the Amex card because with all the fees that Uber Eats charges compared to DoorDash, it just doesn't pay off for that $15 extra you get per month.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about using credits, I think it's a valid point, and you have to differentiate between things that you use normally. So if you're already a DoorDash customer, then that's an easy way to save money is to use up those credits. If
Right.
you're ordering stuff you wouldn't otherwise order, yeah, it's more expensive,
Right.
and so then you've got to value the credit. And I think we also, when we talk about a card like Amex Platinum, I think we also have to think about the place and time that we're at. So we're in August of 21. I think it's January or February of 2023. You'll need to spend $75,000 a year on that Amex Platinum to get Centurion Lounge access, which I think is a big reason why a number of folks like us hold that card for that lounge access. The Centurion lounges are definitely the best lounges in the U.S.
Right.
Very premium place to go. But I'd argue, most people probably aren't putting, call it, $6,000 a month on their Amex Platinum. There are folks who do, no question. But I think, again, like making sure it's adding up, are you going to spend $75,000 on your Amex Platinum to make sure you still have the lounge access, which is a big reason some people get that card.
Right. And I've flown through Phoenix on both of our favorite airlines a few times, and I haven't been able to get in a single time in the last 3 months because there's data. Oh, you have to get on the list, come back in 45 minutes. Like my flight's in 45 minutes. So
right.
It's like it's kind of I know it's a risky sport, but the Centurion Lounge in Phoenix is so far away. It's always at the complete opposite of where you always land and where your next flight leaves out of. So
yeah,
at the end of the day, I think that it's really strange that they're putting the restrictions on right now and they're increasing the price. If they are going to do that, I feel like they need to really step it up on those lounges to make sure that there is enough room for everybody, and with the premium that they're charging.
Well, and I think that's where the $75,000 comes in because in a lot of these airports they can't make those clubs larger. So I think they're gonna put the gate up that way by forcing people to spend on the card, because a lot of people won't spend that much. Because even for folks like us who you've got enough business expenses to do it, but is the Amex Platinum the only card in your wallet? How much are you putting on a Chase Sapphire? All that sort of stuff. No,
I agree. The combo, I do have the gold platinum combo, and I only use it for plane tickets because that's what it is. But Hilton Honor status is working well for me, and the national status, things that's good to have in a pinch. Randy Peterson, our common friend, he always calls it the breakfast card, is what he calls the Hilton Honor, because it gives you free breakfast. Well, Used to, at least. Maybe after the end of the year, we're going to have to see how that plays out. But that's what he has been calling that card, the breakfast card. He's got lovely names for everything, like the old American seat. He called it the dump truck seat, the business class seat that goes downhill. And he calls that card the breakfast card. So that's what that card. And I, every once in a while you need there's no Marriott and no Hilton, and that's kind of what you get stuck with. So yeah, that's it's always a good get out of jail free card for me, anyways. But let's talk about some other cards. You were talking about Costco. You obviously spend, that annual spend, $75K would obviously, that's more that you spent. Obviously you can't use that card at Costco anymore, but it has to be a Visa card now. But what are Costco doing? And for somebody like me that spends, more the same that you spend in the 15 first minutes I spend in a year every time you visit. So why should people get that card, and how much spend did you need to have on it in order to get it to make sense?
Well, for starters, if you're a Costco fan, it's an easy card to afford because you get the card with no annual fee if you have a Costco membership. So that's first and foremost. So anybody who's got a Costco membership, no brainer, get the card.
Right.
And I would argue that you shouldn't get the card unless you're doing a reasonable amount of shopping at Costco. You can still cash out the dollars that you get for anything. You don't have to buy stuff at Costco. But the moral of the story, your one of your 3 bonus categories on that card is Costco. So you've got there's model is a 4-3-2 model. So it's 4 points or 4% cash back or 4% Costco cash back on gas, and that's up to $7,000 in the first year. 3% on restaurants and travel. And travel's pretty broadly defined for them. Right. And then 2% on Costco. So it's a good cross section of categories. And I think for anybody who shops at Costco on a regular basis, it's a no-brainer. But even for folks who don't, you can take the Costco rebate check that you get every year to the counter inside the location, and they'll give you cash for it. Right. So it can truly be cash back. And I think the fact that you can use it for gas at places other than Costco, any gas station will work, means if you're any sort of a road warrior who's driving from city to city, consultant, things like that, or even my wife who drives the kids back and forth to school 75 times a day.
With your truck that gives 2 miles per gallon.
Yeah, 1.5 miles per gallon.
Okay, got it. Okay. Well, but
that can really add up. So I think the Costco card is a good card to have in your wallet if you have a Costco nearby, especially, like I said, if you have a membership to Costco. It's almost a no-brainer, especially because you're not going to find too many other places. I think Amex Gold is probably one of the few places where you can get well, actually, they don't even have 4 points on gas anymore. So you're not, if 4 points per dollar on gas is a tough one. I
don't think they do. I think that for gas, it's obviously 4%. I think it's the highest number that you that I've actually that I think is around. If anybody else can, please comment in the comments. Even if you're not watching it live, comment later if there are other gas cards that could be a good gig for this, because I feel like that's the about the thing. So let's go over, this is kind of probably where I spend a little bit more money than I do at Costco, is, because the way that it works now is, normally we've gotten to a point where we get a lot of stuff delivered at our house. Mostly because, like I said, where I live, it's, not the most liberal. That was the wrong thing. I definitely don't want to show my whole screen of stash here. But the gig with the Amazon card is that it's also valid at Whole Foods. Right. And 5% of the gig is obviously a big number. And for looking at the Amazon card, 5% on Amazon. And also what I've noticed, if that when you are utilizing the card for buying membership, I purchased some of the the video content that I buy, the channels that I buy them through Amazon to have them in the same app.
Yeah.
And that also gives you 5% back. Not that, now it seems like when you, with your cell phone bill and with everything else and the credit cards, you get this streaming stuff for free. But as you can see, the restaurants and gas stations, the Costco card has a beat on both of the things. But just for Whole Foods in itself, and there was also some markets where Whole Foods are now starting to charge money for delivery.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in the market where that's the case.
So we're far enough away from our Whole Foods that we would have a delivery fee, but I think they have a radius, and so if you live close to the store, there's no fee. It's only we're a decent distance away from the closest one. And one other thing I'd note on the Amazon card for folks, and I sort of learned this the hard way. There's the Amazon cards that you referenced. There's also an Amazon Business credit card, which is issued by American Express. And I learned this because I had too many American Express cards, and when I applied, I didn't qualify for it. But I think the cool thing about that card as well is if you don't have like one of the Chase Inc. cards, on top of the 5% at Amazon and Whole Foods, that card has the same 2% category as the Chase Visa for restaurants and gas stations, but it also has 2% on wireless bills, so cell phone bills. So if you don't have an Ink card, that can be a good way to earn a bonus on your cell phone bill. Right.
I mean, it's obviously I was not aware of the wireless. Yeah. So what is the best wireless card that there is, though, Ed? Which one should I put as my cell phone? Because we had a debate about that, and I don't think we got to a good conclusion on that. So the Ink card, it seems to be where we put it now. Is that the best, or is there somewhere else?
Yeah, so obviously if you have one of the old Ink cards, that's the best because you the Ink Bold, the Ink Cash, the Ink Cash for Business, I think is the current one. I always get the names mixed up, but that's 5 points per dollar on cell phone bills, and to my knowledge, there's nothing better than that. I feel like maybe the Cap One card, the Spark Business card, might have had a bonus for your cell phone for a hot minute, but I don't know if that's still on there. I know they've shuffled some of the bonus around, but I haven't seen better than 5% on anything. So that would be where I'd put it, and it's where I put mine. I have the older Ink Plus or Ink Bold, one of those guys. But that's where I put my cell phone.
That's the same that we have. It's at least 10 years or close to 10 years old, that card, I think it is. So
yeah, I think that's a reasonable place to put. I think the other thing to throw in the mix that we haven't talked about as well is the Bank of America, and they just changed the name on this, so if I get the name wrong, but Bank of America has the custom cash rewards card, and so this is really geared towards folks who have an investment account, so TD Ameritrade or Fidelity or one of those folks. If you can move your stock portfolio to Merrill Lynch, which is part of Bank of America,
stock portfolio,
as long as you have $100,000 in the bank with Bank of America in some form or fashion, either through your stock portfolio or Merrill Lynch or Bank of America or money market, any of that stuff, their 3% card, 3% cash back is a category of your choice every month.
Okay.
But it maximizes to 5.25% if you have $100,000 in the bank with Bank of America. So,
got it.
So you can get, it's the highest number I know of, and it's higher than the 5% that you're referencing there on City Custom by a quarter point. And the nice thing there is it's it's every it changes every month.
Got it.
And I think the category limit is higher. I think it's $2,500 a month, where I think City Custom is $500.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's fine.
Just something for folks to think about. I'm not positive on the $2,500. Actually, it's $2,500 per quarter, so that works out to $800 a month. So it's a little higher threshold than the City Custom card.
Very nice. All right, I think that's a good wrap for today. And in a couple of weeks, I was talking to Marshall about it, and he thinks that it's a great idea. You come back for the fun 20-minute banter we have at the end, where we talk trash about people and where we compliment people for what they're doing and companies who are making mistakes. And no baby diapers in toilet seats on planes like Gary likes to write about, but more about what's going on in the news and we'll take a look at some website of what's going on out there. So thanks so much for stopping by, and all the best to the kids and to the boss.
Yeah, quick shameless plug on the Hilton thing. I'm going to have Hilton on my podcast in just a couple of weeks, talking about what's happening next year with that $10 credit for breakfast. So
I forgot to mention that. So Ed's podcast is definitely worth checking out, and also his blog Pizza in Motion, especially if you're into RV stuff. It's also
God, the RV. But yeah, so we don't have a firm date yet. Looks like it'll be probably October 1st that Hilton's going to come on, and one of the questions
Jennifer that's going to come.
It's supposed to be Jennifer, but not set in stone. So, and one of the questions that was high on the list was, okay, well, what happens with the credit next year? So we're hoping to have her live in October, giving us that answer.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely see her in DC at the Loyalty Summit on December 2nd. We got that confirmed today. So very, very happy about that. That's cool that you're bringing it on, and definitely I'm going to share in the comments below on YouTube when we're done. So you guys can check out Ed's podcast for that. Definitely sign up for it, and you get a notification when he goes live.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you later, man.
Yeah, giddy up. All right, we go over now to Minneapolis, the big daddy, the Mac daddy of the original Savvy Traveler, and Rudy looks like he's pretty comfortable there, and
I'm in St. Paul.
St. Paul,
not Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I don't really care, but people who live here care a lot about that.
So what's the difference between Minneapolis and St. Paul? Like practically, what's the difference in real life?
It's quite significant. I was surprised. I'm not a Midwesterner. I'm from the East Coast, but I moved here for love about 2 decades ago. Shoot me now, as I like to say. And I didn't really have any concept of the Twin Cities. St. Paul is one, Minneapolis is the other. They're divided by the Mississippi River. St. Paul is on the east side of the Mississippi. Minneapolis is on the west. And Mark Twain once said that the East Coast stops at St. Paul and the West Coast begins in Minneapolis. And it was and still is accurate. So if you come to St. Paul, you will see an older city. Not that Minneapolis doesn't have its own old warehouse district as well, but St. Paul's buildings are older. There aren't a whole lot of glass and steel high rises. The neighborhoods are a little more neighborhoody and funky. People don't dress up to go to the grocery store. You won't see a Tesla around, probably. I don't know if I've ever seen one in St. Paul, frankly.
But what about, so you have that cathedral there. That's massive.
The cathedral for the Twin Cities is here. It's massive and it's gorgeous. There's no question.
It looks like it looks too new to be European, but it kind of almost is there, right?
It is. It is stunning. Look, it's a very pleasant city to live in. It's the capital of the state, and the capital here was right across from the cathedral. So it's a pleasant place to live, but it's not high energy. And people from Minneapolis sort of look down at it as Saint Boring.
Saint Boring.
And I will tell you, even though by an interstate highway, the two cities are 7 minutes apart, and there's buildings lining it the whole way. It's not like you go through a countryside and get to another city. I will tell you that they are totally different. And there are people from St. Paul who have never been to Minneapolis and vice versa. I kid you not. When I moved here, my girlfriend had lived here 22 years, and she didn't know her way around Minneapolis, which is not a big city, particularly if you're from
you kind of have to go there to get sushi. You got to go to Minneapolis and like the fanciest restaurants and that kind of stuff. You got to go
Minneapolis there. is glass and steel high rises, Teslas. Women look like they're from Dallas going to the grocery stores in the western suburbs. It's more of a business city. It's more cosmopolitan. You would think, oh well, this is pretty cosmopolitan. This is like a mini Chicago. Mini, I underline the word mini. So they are very, very different cities. I'm stunned by that. Most of my friends live on the west side, which is Minneapolis and its wealthier suburbs. So I spend a lot of time there, and I know my way around there, obviously. St. Paul is just a more conservative, quiet city.
Well, we know there's a really good sushi place in Minneapolis for sure. What is it called again?
It's called Billy's, and I ate there last night.
Oh, Billy's, that's phenomenal. I remember when we were there during the runt of the pandemic, when everybody was freaking out December last year, and Billy, your buddy that runs it, he opened the restaurant just for us. So
he was doing carry out.
Yeah, they were doing takeout and that kind of stuff, but the restaurant was closed itself, and so we were able to. It was the first meal I had had since March of last year in a restaurant. That was that time, so that was great.
Well, there are probably more desirable restaurants in Minneapolis than in St. Paul. Not that there aren't places to eat in St. Paul, obviously.
Except for that steakhouse, that's terrible.
Oh yeah, Manny's is a legendary
Manny's,
local
oh my
steakhouse
God,
here.
that is supposed to be the best steakhouse in town, and it was like,
You know,
rubber
people love it.
ducky meat.
It's called Manny's. It's a big place for players. It's a big steakhouse. It's got a great local reputation. But I must tell you, in the 20 years I've lived here, I think I've had 3 dinners there, and I've never been impressed.
Neither have I. I have 2 dinners. 3 dinners. I actually have 2. With a couple with Frank and one when you came a couple months ago. And I have to tell you, stick with the gimlet and the shrimp cocktail, and stay away from the steaks at the steakhouse.
Yeah, there's a Capital Grill a few blocks away. I think you'll be better
that's
served
a
there.
safe bet. So let's talk a little bit. You've been bopping around Europe a lot. You have your lovely daughter and her husband, and your girls, your granddaughters, who are blessed enough to be in the west of France, southwest of France.
Yes, they are.
Vacationing at an area that's not that common, and not that, I didn't know a lot. I've known about Bordeaux, and I've been to Bordeaux, but I haven't been to kind of that area on the coast and things like that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I didn't know about it either. My daughter and her husband, both are American, and my granddaughters were both born in Geneva, Switzerland, where my son-in-law had a job. And he had neighbors who said, "Oh, you should come to Cap Ferret." Now, I would imagine, I've never asked him, but whenever I tell anybody about Cap Ferret, they immediately think of Cap Ferrat, which is on the French Riviera, on the Mediterranean Sea, over by Nice and Monte Carlo and blah, blah, blah.
What's the name of that awesome hotel that's right there, the Four Seasons? That's the, oh my goodness. It's actually one of the few southern hotels in southern France that it's in that is in the one that Cap Ferrat, what everybody's heard of. Which has
you're talking about the Hotel de Cap?
Sponge pools.
The Hotel de Cap you're talking about?
Maybe that's it. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
it's not a Four Seasons,
I haven't stayed there myself. I was looking at it a few years back, but
it is the hotel. Yes,
exactly. Some celebrities and that kind of stuff.
So people always think when I say I'm going to Cap Ferret that I'm going to Cap Ferrat.
Ooh, very fancy. But that area, I've seen a video that you made on YouTube, which is really cool. It's not really that fancy, is it? It looks like very homey and a lot of oysters.
A lot of rich people live. All right, so we got Cap Ferret, which is the most well-known Cap Ferret to Americans over the French Riviera. Then all the way over to the western side of France along the Atlantic Ocean is the region of Bordeaux, with the main city of Bordeaux being the capital of that particular state or province or whatever they call it, department. But then there's a small peninsula about a 40-minute drive away called Cap Ferret, Ferret, and it's a sort of pine wood studded peninsula of about 10 small villages, and on one side is the Atlantic Ocean with the most incredibly enormous beaches you've ever seen, much bigger than any we have in the States.
Wide beaches and long, 120 miles long and beautiful. And on the other side of the peninsula is a bay, where it's a massive oyster industry, and this entire peninsula has been a home for years, or many years, decades, to oyster fishermen. My daughter lives in the town of Cap Ferret on the peninsula, which happens to be called Cap Ferret as well, called Lage Cap Ferret, technically. And it is Philippe Starck has his home there. And there are very, very few hotels, which is why Americans don't know about it. There's no place to stay. It's hard to find a place to stay in. But because my daughter and her husband and the granddaughters were in Geneva, French neighbors said, "Let's go to Cap Ferret." And they did. And they both like oysters, and or they all like oysters, I should say. And that captured them. But it took them years to find a place to buy. Real estate hardly ever changes hands. And what has been happening in recent years is the French Riviera is so built up. The traffic is so nuts in July and August. And it's sort of... So we were supposed to talk about COVID. And so is it you were there last year too, or the year before last? When I can't believe we're gone. We're on round 2 of this thing. You were there in 2019 also in the summer. How was it compared to now? Tourist-wise?
Well, there are fewer people. There are few people there. I was there for most of July and early August, early this month, and there were fewer tourists. As I mentioned, there's no place really for them to stay, but they stay across the bay in a town called Arcachon, and some Americans do know that because there's 4 stories, 5 stories hotels there, much more bustling urban town than the villages on that peninsula called Cap Ferret. And people come over by ferry every day to Cap Ferret to go use that really wide ocean beach I described to you on the Atlantic. But it was you could rent. People get around Cap Ferret on bikes, by the way.
Right.
Bicycles have the right of way. There are bike paths everywhere.
And I'm going to leave a description in the description below on and also in the FTU community group, a link to your video, because then you can look and see how a day is.
Yeah, my granddaughter made a video, 10 years
really
old,
cool.
I will tell you, edited the thing better than anything we've ever made, you and me, Tommy.
Called
a day
contest.
Called a day in Cap Ferret. But tourists come over during the day. But for example, in 2019, you couldn't find a place that rent bikes to have a bike. This time around in July and even in early August, there were bikes to be had. Restaurants weren't quite as full.
Right.
But of course, French people do take off a lot in August, but still COVID's an issue there.
They're sure
French people now have to show a digital pass with a QR code on it, indicating they're fully vaccinated. Americans can visit, but take your CDC card with you. And keep your passport and your CDC card together, and you will be permitted into restaurants, museums, and public places as long as you're carrying your CDC card and your passport. Now, that's good advice as of mid-August, well, toward the third week of August, almost the end of August, 2021. So if you're watching this later, check to see if the advice is still accurate.
Do you think that, so what we, and it unfortunately for us, it's going to have a major impact on our business that the U.S. has decided not to open the borders to the European and also even to Canadians and Mexicans. And do you think that, and it was grumbling today, the Europeans are kind of done with that. It's like we are, we're the spreadnecks of the world. So it's not like we aren't the ones who are having the most new cases and all that stuff. And yet we don't let anybody come here, but we will send our people gladly overseas, no problem at all. And they will let us come. And the Europeans today said, hey, we're going to think about cutting back on the Americans now. Is that going to happen?
Well, it could. They do need American business, but not only that, but you must have a negative COVID test result 72 hours before your flight to return home to the United States by U.S. law or U.S. regulations. Europeans don't demand that you have a negative COVID test before you go to Europe. As long as you got your CDC card, you're fine. So it's sort of ironic that the Americans who issue the CDC card don't allow me as an American to come back with just my CDC card. I have to have so they're really putting people through more hoops. And I don't know when we will open to Europeans. I'm very surprised we haven't yet, because as you say, we're not. Miami isn't exactly a paradise for people who don't want to get COVID.
Well, no, I'm surprised about it. As you know, we have a big conference that we were supposed to have on September 30th, and a lot of our sponsors are based in Canada. That's where all the majority of the Miles and Points technology companies that make these good softwares are based there. And I was supposed to be in Canada actually last week, and they have decided not to go back to the office, and most certainly are not interested in sitting down and having meetings with us face to face. So it's all virtual still, but it obviously the August 21st was the date when we were going to open the borders, at least for Canadians and also possibly to Europeans, but that didn't happen. And I think everybody's a little bit confused at the moment. I think a lot of these tests, they're skipping taking these tests because they're so unreliable. You could have gotten, COVID before or after. You never know when you take the test. It's always obviously the reason why they take the tests that people don't think about is because it is that if you're lucky enough to catch somebody with it then and there that has it, then that makes a difference. But if not, it probably doesn't because of how you can have symptoms and stuff. But so how was it? You flew through Charles de Gaulle when you were there. How was the journey?
No problem at all. Switching planes in Charles de Gaulle, no problem getting out of Charles de Gaulle. As long as you can show you had your a COVID test in France before at least 72 hours before your departure, you're fine. In fact, that's what you need to do to get on the plane. I did change planes in De Gaulle I went to Croatia and Montenegro and spent some time.
Yeah, that was early in the summer. And
Yeah,
but back then then everything was looking spiffy then, and there weren't any cases here, and everything was good, right? It was much better.
It was
than
early
it is now.
July. We still had some cases here, but again, all you needed was your CDC card to get in. I drove across the border from Croatia to Montenegro, showed them my passport and my CDC card, and was waved in. That's all they asked.
Yeah, because they don't speak English, so they don't want to have any confrontations. So yeah, go ahead.
They speak English over there.
Yeah, it's funny. And Montenegro is a pretty cool country, and it impressed you a lot, and it also impressed me when I went there. I mean, I think Croatia is the biggest flop known to mankind. Everybody, oh, Croatia, let's go to Croatia. They have wonderful wine, and it was like when I was sat down at a restaurant. The last time you and I were there together was in October of 2019, and I sat down at a restaurant and I ordered a one-person pizza, like the one you buy in Italy for $5 or €5 to €7. And it was $15, and I was like, "What the hell just happened to Croatia here?"
Well, Croatia got discovered. I mean, I still love Croatia because I love the ruggedness of the country, and like Montenegro, the coastline is the Adriatic. It's unspoiled, and there are those chalk cliffs behind it. So it's a very beautiful country. But
it's very different.
Montenegro
and Croatia is very, very different.
Go to Montenegro. Montenegro. The border is 20 kilometers from Dubrovnik. It's right there. You just keep driving across, and you have the same gorgeous scenery, but much cheaper prices.
I couldn't agree more. And I will say, I mean, don't go to Croatia, go to Italy, because Italy is cheaper, much cheaper. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we went to. So I don't remember. You're not you're a highfalutin, more upscale guy than I am. And Melinda and I, when we were there, you remember we had those because we had over 100 guests there, so they took all the seat or all the beds in the Sheraton. So we stayed at the apartments or the condos, right?
Remember?
So we got some stuff
in Dubrovnik. You're talking about Dubrovnik,
outside of the
right outside of the old
Dubrovnik, close to the airport at the Sheraton there. Sheraton is actually a nice hotel, but
was it?
we went to the supermarket and we got stuff at the supermarket to have just waters and things, because there's no room service or anything going on in those apartments that are across the street that are owned by the Sheraton. So we just got some stuff, and I was like, wow, this is this is expensive as hell. So, and that was like one of those chains that are also in Italy. And go to Italy, don't go to Croatia. That's okay. Or if you want to go over and feel something, you get the same vibe, then go to Montenegro. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I would rather go to Italy, to be honest with you.
Well, I certainly agree that Montenegro feels very much like Croatia. They've got great seafood, great wines, beautiful, beautiful coastline, great looking water.
They do. Lots to see.
And
a lot of things. And lots to see, and not as crowded. Well, obviously that you weren't in an off year, but we felt that when we were there, Melinda and I were there like 3 or 4 years ago. We stayed at that Sheraton, and then we drove to both Bosnia and to Montenegro for day trips, and we had a phenomenal time around that area, to be quite honest. So now obviously we're not doctors. Everybody likes to play doctor. You remember when you grew up, you like to play doctor, but that's a different story for a different time of the day. But at the end of the day, what's the crystal ball? What are you thinking? What's the next play here? I mean, for us who's in the travel industry, you and I run a couple of businesses together, and it's not so much fun right now. What's the next thing that's going to happen?
Well, we're always looking ahead 6 months and going, well, by then things will have tamped down. And we've been saying that since 2020.
Right.
It just keeps going on. And
we have now 3 Megadoos ready for launch, and kicking down moving all of these. So we've had a couple of FTUs we had to cancel. We've had our tour company that we had to move people. Now we're moving people for the 3rd time, and now it looks like are we going to be able to go on our Christmas market tours? Is that going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, right now I think it will happen. But if America's numbers keep going up, I don't know if it will. And even worse, if you look toward Asia, not that we run any tours to Asia, but I certainly am an Asia file. And I mean, they can't get out and we can't get in. It makes Europe look like an open playground. That's a big part of the world. She closed off 2 Americans and closed off 2 Asians. Asians can't leave.
Right.
And New
And they have
Zealand,
their own problems. I mean, Malaysia right now, Japan to an extent has a big outbreak.
Thailand. Yeah.
It's not a good situation. But I think that at the end of the day, I feel like the good news is that if you are vaccinated, your chances of something terrible happening to you, even for both of us who are in our advanced years, we feel pretty confident that it will be safe. So I think that's something to think about.
There's no question. I mean, you're not going to do much traveling outside of the United States if you don't have that CDC card.
Absolutely. Get that CDC card. And, and it's also starting here. Restaurants all over the country in New York. And it's also been rumored now that it'll be in DC that you need to have a verified vaccine card from your state. So we have one of those in California. I have it on my phone.
New Orleans,
really? Mm-hmm. Wow. I hadn't heard about that.
You've been vaccinated to get into a New Orleans restaurant or bar or anything.
That's cool. Wait a minute. Aren't they one of the states that has
Yeah, but New Orleans is having none of it. So.
Interesting. Well, obviously, because in reality, when people are not getting vaccinated and we are not getting safer, it hurts the tourism. It's everything related to travel. I mean, I've talked to a couple of airlines in the last couple of weeks, and it's not looking good. There aren't any bookings, and we're now talking about moving planes back to the desert again.
No, I knew we had this sort of upward trend in June and July, and hoteliers and airline execs were bringing planes back and rooms back online and talking positive, and then it just sort of abruptly ended mid-July, and it's just a tug of war now between anti-vaxxers and those who are vaccinated. I mean, I'm sorry it's come to this, but as somebody who's vaccinated, when you figure 90% of the people in the hospital who are in the hospital because of COVID never had a vaccine, I don't know what more I can say to my few friends who haven't been vaccinated. What more can you say?
You do have those worm pills, for animals. So the cow worm pill. They haven't been approved by the FDA yet, which is really important to these people.
I know. It's just amazing to me how that final approval for
for
shots that was so important.
The
but they'll take a horse.
No. We're going to do cow pills instead.
Right. Exactly. It's. I know. I don't know. Sometimes
I
wonder.
No, it's like, if you don't make it political, just help us get our industry back so we can start traveling again. So the industry, there are everybody, all the hotels, even if, for a short period of time, the hotels in the US have been filled, in Florida and other places, and where it's high demand. Also here in California, I told you about the Laguna Niguel Ritz. We went there for our only trip that we've taken this year together, my wife and I, and the property we both like a lot. And the price for a regular room starts at $1,500 with a view of the dumpster. So,
oh my gosh, you think that's still the case right now? What do you think?
I think that it's still there. The demand is still there, but because the cases here in California are I saw that where I am now, it's taken off lately, which is in a rural area outside of Sac, which is very Trumpy, and a lot of people who are saying in public, all of those lame excuses that you have. But the Southern California, the cases aren't that, there hasn't been that many so far. So I think the demand is still there, but I think that when you're looking after Labor Day, I think that I looked at a couple of dates and the prices have come down half again. So
good.
So, but at the end of the day, it's like the crystal ball. I think that what we would like to say is that it's possible to move around. It's not as fun as it used to be. We've lost a lot of our favorite restaurants are shut down or might not even come back. And in Europe also, I talked to my brother who's in Burgundy now. He's there for the 2 months out of the year at his wife's family place, and been a little, it's very quiet, and it's a good time to travel as long as you.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's
all right. I'll let you get to dinner. Get ready for your truffles and vintage champagne. And we're going to bring in. Thanks so much for joining, Rudy.
Thank you, Tommy.
The Miles and Points Report. There was not a lot of miles and not a lot of points, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the the border that surprisingly didn't open. So thanks for joining us for that.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to bring in Marshall. See you later, Rudy. Marshall Jackson out of DC, District of Columbia, the man on a project in Seattle. And it wasn't a woman.
Was an airplane.
So what's been going on there for the last couple of weeks? How is it in the nation's capital?
It's hot. My downstairs air conditioning's on the fritz.
All right.
Yeah. So we could talk about that for 10 minutes, but
I'm not sure that that we would get the buy-in from the rest of the crew here. So in the miles and points world, what has happened? Do you think that you've noticed in the last couple of weeks since we talked 2 weeks ago?
You know, my favorite things are Delta is semi-requiring and vaccinations. I don't know that that's miles and points related, but hey, it's airline related. You know?
Right.
Lucky flew on JetBlue to London, which I really enjoyed reading.
Right. Oh, okay. I was not aware. Let's find that article and take a peek at it. What did he think?
10 things he liked most about it.
All right.
One of my favorite things to read.
1 mile at a time. Welcome to the newest and best credit card offers. Here we go. Review JetBlue A320. That one would make it all the way to London.
A little further down. It's like 10 favorite things or something like that.
Let's figure it out. Superstar London flight attendant.
10 things he loved.
I found it. Let me share this.
There we go.
25 comments. That's it. Nobody wants to. So this is like they have gotten across the board. JetBlue have gotten really a lot of positive stuff happening.
That's
right?
Fancy. Look at
I haven't had the only one who was bitching and moaning was Zach because he was in coach. Because there wasn't
why we don't fly
available.
coach.
Yeah, but I take that back. He wasn't bitching and moaning. I think that he was complaining a little bit about being in coach, but nobody likes that. So here we go. What he liked. Oh, wait, hang on for a sec. That wasn't it. I clicked on the. Here we go. Things I loved. A ridiculously swanky looking cabin.
You know, we love swanky.
Yeah. And but the blue here kind of reminds me more of KLM than let's see. So so there's a door, incredible personalized service. Mr. Sloppy, thank you for your so you got a license note. That's cool. And I've heard the food is supposed to be great. I've heard from our friend down in Florida, Chris Sloan was on it. Well, he took, I think he was in coach one way and business the other, if I remember correctly. Absolutely love it, the technology and everything. So what was it with? So I see Maldon salt in the background there. That's you know what that is?
Hey, I'm from rural eastern North Carolina, Tommy. I'm not sure.
Right. And I'm from northern Norway. It's a fisherman's town of 25. Either you're a fisherman or you're in the military. That was what's going on in that town, or you're on welfare. No, it's a specific. It's very fancy. It's not fancy because it costs like $7 and it lasts for a year. But it's a really good sea salt. You know, you kind of when you go to a restaurant, you see them in a little thing where you put your finger in. Before COVID, then you sprinkle it on things, and that's kind of the way it is. So it looks like he has some lasagna and some chicken here.
Yeah.
All right.
Dirty martinis.
Yeah. Well,
not just dirty, but filthy martinis.
Yeah, no kidding. He's got a cappuccino, killing the coffee game. Well, I mean, it's an espresso machine, so that's. I know he's killing the coffee game. You know, that cappuccino on top there. I don't know. The foam looks a little bit pale. Iced oat cappuccino, so oat milk. You know, the kids today.
Yeah.
The damn milks. What did he say? 2%? You can kiss 2% of my ass. Oh, and then look at that. So you got a little breakfast to go bag. It's a 6-hour flight, so it's not like you need to have. That's the thing, and I'm sure they have full meals. I've seen pictures of full meals that they have, but Lucky probably decided, you need your beauty sleep there, and
I can't blame him.
No, but I mean 6, 5, 6. It depends. It's a French plane made in Germany, so it's obviously not as fast as a normal plane. But
or maybe it was made in Alabama.
Alabama, yeah, that's true. Yes, they opened up the Bubba plant down in they're still open, or
it's still open.
Still open, yeah. Or they're making the 220 there, the Bombardier one, right?
They're the 320 series and the 220, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. And Wi-Fi is free. How about that? Haven't heard about that before.
Fancy,
right? So everybody's praising it. Everybody loves it. And the issue, though, is that. Besides, what are the legs on the 321 LR? Is it called LR? Is that the one that they're using?
If I'm not mistaken, it is. And, England and near continental Europe probably is about it. And the XLR, I believe, is coming soon.
Right.
Somebody has
so it has the legs to do Boston, obviously, they're going to do, and they're doing New York. And then DC probably it has legs to do DC, I'm sure. Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
But then what? Then what? We've taken care of the muggy part of the country, but what about the rest of it?
I think Charlotte would be as far. Americans picking up the XLR, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Has a few on order, so there could be some.
Yeah, they've been flying the 757 out of Philly for many years.
Yep.
And also, from some thinner routes. I mean, when single eye looks like this, who the hell cares if you have a wide body or not?
No.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah, so Lucky loves JetBlue. And I think everybody agrees with him.
Yeah. So do I, and I haven't even flown it yet.
Right. We got to get on it. Get on that. We got to get on it. We got to get on that thing there with the JetBlue people. And also the prices aren't crazy. I mean, what are the round trips? What are we talking about here? Let's look it up. How much money they want from us to take us to London and back. I think that for, obviously you got that ticket crap going on. Let's see.
Did you say cookies?
Cookies, yeah. Neither one of us need to have any of those.
No.
JFK to London. The Gatwick that they're doing? I think so.
Why do I want to think they started with Heathrow? But they are adding Gatwick.
Let's see what they got.
Don't quote me on that.
No flights. So maybe you're right. Maybe we've got it going. So we'll just do all of them. Stretch out. Enjoy the most legroom. All right. So we're not flying to, here we go. So 306 and 342.
That feels coachy.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But, I mean, it's not like Blue Basic, so that means that you don't get a seatbelt. $2,000. Is that one way or is it round trip? I haven't booked a JetBlue flight in a while.
I haven't in 2 years. I think that's it.
I thought I did round trip. I did round trip, yeah. So let's do that one and the return. So no, it's not.
Yeah,
it's ridiculously expensive. Maybe they have some sort of a sale and whatnot. But I ain't flying that. That's ridiculous. But I think I've seen fares about $2,000. It's normally what it is. We should do. I'll do a check for next time around and go a little bit on Google Analytics and stuff and see what not Google Analytics, Google. On Google Flights and see what we got going on there. So let's see what the other part. This is very close to your heart. And one thing that I found interesting is American Eagle pilot.
Oh.
Finally going to get paid.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, $30,000 retention bonus because, you know, like they say, there's been a big reset. And to be honest with you, I kind of like this reset. You know, people are used to hiring people for peanuts, and they're not having it.
No, and I think that's a good thing. Did I ever tell you what my first full year W-2 was as a Jetstream 31 FO at a airline that shall remain nameless?
Yeah, but that was back in the 60s.
Yeah.
When was that?
All right, that would have been 1994.
Right.
My
Straight
first
out of college.
Yeah, so my first full year W-2 was $13,396.
Wow. I was selling cable back then. I made a shitload more money than you did. Knocking on people's door, getting yelled at. Yeah, so it looks to me like, but you know, it has been an issue, especially in the U.S. and you know, aviation airline industry, that the gap in the salaries have just been enormous. You have these Delta pilots making 2 round trips to Hong Kong in a month, and that's their entire job. So they literally are flying, 40 hours a month, and with a couple of extra guys on board, making $450,000 a year. And then you got these new guys who are making 20. And you know, I remember back. Not that obviously it's up to people to be responsible when they're adults, but that Colgan Air pilot that was working double shift at Starbucks before crashing that Dash 8 into the ground up in Niagara Falls or Buffalo or whatever.
Buffalo.
It was. Exhausted and doing his best to build his career. I think that this is great news. We should definitely encourage. This is encouraging news that you're literally getting triple the salary that what's used to before. That's good news, and that's going to get more quality people into the industry as well.
It is good news, and plus, you know, the airplanes have gotten bigger. They make a little more revenue.
Right.
You know, you get and then there's a career path in most places now with flow through agreements to the major airlines. So I think things have improved in the regional pilot arena,
right,
from years ago, for sure.
Yeah, no, I feel like, you know, to me, I've always made the case that, you know, instead of having somebody making 450 and somebody making 20, how about, you know, somebody making 250 and somebody making 70? I think that's a much better play because, you know, it's a costly education, and a lot of these old timers that are making these long salaries with the seniority, they got their training in the Air Force or in the Navy, God forbid, and obviously that's the gig. So I would think we agree that that's good news, and also that to pivot into hotels, we're seeing a lot, and there was this post I noticed in that Marriott group, the Marriott Bonvoy Insiders group, where the hotel owner he was stupid enough to post like, "Well, people are not coming back to work," and he actually admitted that in the state that I think it was Texas. The whole thing is deleted now, but he was in there debating with customers of, elite customers of Marriott, debating as a hotel owner in his full name on that could easily be found. I Google it and looked at it,
right.
and he was like, well, here in this state, we're for people who make tip, the hourly wage is $2.13, and gee, I can't imagine. It's good that more people make more money because then they spend more money. That's kind of where the world goes round. So
no doubt.
So all of these hotels that are yammering about it, but obviously a lot of it has fallen on what's his face, the new Marriott guy, who said it in public that he thinks that their employees make too much money or want too much money. Yeah, I like the reset. I kind of like it. I know that it'll be more inflation and we're going to have to pay more, but kind of okay with that, to be honest with you.
We will get through it. There'll be an adjustment period, I'm sure.
Right.
It's one of the restaurants here in town in DC experimented with a no tipping model for a while.
I got that one. Here we go. Right there, right?
Yep, at the Thompson.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that. Because I was there also when we went there together. We've gone there a couple of times, I think.
We did. We went to the rooftop bar was one part of the same group, and then the restaurant downstairs, they were experimenting with a no tipping model.
Right.
So, and like literally, I saw people would try to leave them cash, and they wouldn't take it. The staff would
really
not.
Cool.
Like we do not do tips, but during the both of the restaurants, the upstairs bar and the downstairs.
That's where we were, right there.
Yep, that's exactly where we were, Anchovy Social. And I can't pronounce the name of the restaurant downstairs, but
right.
But a very nice place. But that is something I'd like to see spread around to the restaurant industry.
Right.
In this country,
I couldn't agree more. And it's really a puzzling. This is actually a good review from a girl that I haven't heard of yet. It must be a new Carolyn Tanner. Do we know who that is?
No, points guy person, I say.
I like this review. This is a really good hotel review, and they should definitely have her write more reviews. And this is the hotel that I've been wanting to check out, not because it's 3 minutes from your house, but because then we can have a barbecue out on your deck there. But because it's kind of cool looking. And it's like an upscale Hyatt brand, right?
Right.
And it looks, it looks pretty, okay, some Tivoli radio and not the best stuff there is, but it looks pretty cool. And also that they have a really good restaurant, and also that they have that rooftop bar. That is not a bad thing. I think.
No, not at all.
Pretty cool, especially when are they still doing the tipping stuff, or did they move away from it?
They moved away from it post pandemic, unfortunately. And I would hope they will move back to it at some point, but they had to close during the height of the pandemic.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it in the past tense just yet, but as they've reopened, they return to a more traditional model. But they are one of the restaurants here in town and bars that are going to require proof of vaccination.
Cool. So what's happening with that in DC? That's the last thing we're over the hour now. But is that true? Is it going to be? Are you going to be required to show a vaccine when you enter a restaurant in DC?
I don't think the city's going to mandate that. I'll be surprised if they do. It's just the capital of the country. It's a little funky doing that. But some of the restaurants, some of the bars, the list is getting longer.
Right.
Places that are requiring that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
The city did make it legal to do that.
And but they do have a mask mandate now inside.
Indoor mask mandate in DC. Yeah.
Right. Because Jamie told me about that a couple of weeks ago. He's a member of the City Club. Funny, the guy who works the least of us, he's the guy who's got a membership to the City Club. He was there.
City Club.
The day that it was mandated, he was told, and he didn't. I don't think he had a mask with him actually.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we're gonna go a couple of rounds on that and have fun with that. That should be good.
Yeah, I will say cases have leveled off here. We'll see if they stay that way.
Yeah. Fortunately, it looks like it now. It looks like it's leveling off. across the country for those who have vaccinated, it seems like the cases are going down dramatically. Hopefully that will be the case for the next few days. But it's getting old, but there are things that everybody can do, like we talked about earlier today, that there are things that you can do out there to make it so we can start doing the things we love again. So,
that's right. I'm ready.
All right, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Best of luck. And where's the chief? Where's Buddy?
Buddy, I locked him out.
Oh, really?
I didn't want him to make an appearance.
Well, in 2 weeks from now, let's bring the cats. I'll bring one, and you'll bring one.
We'll bring the cats.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us again this week, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And I asked also Pizza to join us for our conversation also next week, or in 2 weeks from now. So we'll do that for sure. And if you have any ideas of what we should talk about, if you want anything to, if you want to suggest some guests, let us know. Contact us in the FTU online community. So the FTU community Facebook group is where we communicate best and talk about various things. As you know, the Dallas event is coming up, and we also have the virtual seminar coming up this weekend on Saturday. So if you're a member, remember to join us for free then. And it's included in your annual support membership for $69. All of these virtual sessions we're doing over the winter. So we hope to see you on Saturday. I'm actually going to be there myself with the first session at 8 o'clock in the morning. Take care and be safe out there. And I'll see you guys on Saturday. And if I don't see you on Saturday in a couple of weeks, have a good night.